What an exciting day at Roland Garros, and I know you guys want me to talk about this, so I'm not going to waste any time. The most exciting thing that I've seen today at Roland Garros is, of course, Lily Tagger making it into the Girl Junior Roland Garros Tournament final. And why am I talking about junior girls tennis? Well, Lily Tagger, or Taga, she is from Austria, and she happens to be from Lienz, a town where my dad used to coach. So that's kind of exciting, but that's not the reason why I'm talking about Lily Tagger. She is in the girls' final, and she's a very talented player. Interestingly, in March, in a final of a 30K, she beat Boisson in straight sets in the final. So she's, of course, only 17 and still playing juniors, but she's already ranked 500 on the WTA Tour. Now, the reason why this is such an exciting player is because she has a perfect one-handed backhand, which is something that's non-existent pretty much on the WTA Tour. I know there are some players here and there who use a one-hander. On the ATP Tour, the one-handed backhand is not dead. There are still 8 players with a one-handed backhand in the top 100. And the highest ranked player with a one-handed backhand is Lorenzo Musetti, who played such a phenomenal clay court season. And his craftsmanship on the clay court is spectacular. I thought that in the first semifinal today, he played a phenomenal match against Alcaraz. They played each other 3 times this clay court season, and this match was by far the best one for Musetti. Now, Alcaraz didn't necessarily play that poorly. He had a lot of looks in that first set to get a break on Musetti. He even had some break points. But one thing that struck me in the first set was that Alcaraz's feel was off. There was one drop shot that he hit on his forehand side. Normally he goes inside out with that forehand drop shot, but on this one he hit it inside in, which was strange to begin with, but it looked pretty stiff, not like a Carlos Alcaraz forehand drop shot. So he buried that one in the net, and then throughout this first set he was making uncharacteristic feel shot mistakes. There was a couple more drop shots that were poor, there were some volleys that were poor, and he simply wasn't feeling the ball like he normally does. But still, I don't think he necessarily played that poorly and could have broken Musetti. Tennis is so weird because Alcaraz was holding comfortably, and then when he was trying to stay in the set, serving at 5-4, he got broken, and all of a sudden Musetti was up a set. Now, early in that second set, Alcaraz broke, and I thought, okay, the momentum is going to switch. Maybe it's going to be very similar to the match in Monte Carlo. But no, Carlos lost his serve right away. And for a long portion of that second set, all the way up to 5-all, it appeared that Musetti might actually win this match. Where I felt that Alcaraz started feeling the ball better again was when he broke serve at 5-all. Musetti hit an absolute bomb on his first serve, and Alcaraz ripped his forehand return, ended up breaking serve. I thought that Alcaraz was going to turn it around at that particular moment in time. But no, Alcaraz lost his serve right after breaking serve. And we're in a tie break, but here Alcaraz was feeling the ball quite well. He won that tie break very comfortably. And then, unfortunately, similar to the match in Monte Carlo, Musetti hurt himself. In the post-match interview, he said that he felt something in his leg early in that third set, and it progressively got worse, and he had to pull out down 2-0 in the fourth set. My takeaway from this match is that we're seeing a completely different player in Alcaraz. This is by far the best version of Alcaraz that we've ever seen. And throughout the entire clay court season, Carlos Alcaraz has had many matches where he was far from his best. And one thing that's tricky with Alcaraz is that he has that 100 mile an hour, or maybe even a little bit faster, forehand that he likes to rip. He has this shot, he wants to use this shot. Now, Sinner can also hit the forehand over 100 miles an hour, but he does it far less. So Carlos Alcaraz does like to take risks, and this is one of the reasons why in the past he's achieved incredible results, but he's also lost to a lot of players that he shouldn't be losing to. So it's not like Carlos Alcaraz doesn't hit that shot. He still has poor shot selection at times. Even in this match against Musetti, he blasted some forehands and some backhands that he shouldn't have. These were low percentage shots, no doubt about it. But one difference in this clay court season is that Carlos Alcaraz finds a way to start cleaning up his game and start reversing some of these matches. There were so many circumstances in the past where Carlos Alcaraz didn't do that. He wasn't able to get out of a slump and just continued to miss and ended up losing to guys that he shouldn't have lost to. So that's the big difference that I'm seeing in Alcaraz. And of course, as he proved in the Rome final and other matches throughout this clay court season, of course, when Alcaraz comes through as the winner, he gives himself another chance to find his top level in the very next match. And Carlos Alcaraz has proven in the past with an incredible record in finals that he plays his best tennis when it matters the most. That's why he's a great champion. And now let's talk about Djokovic against Sinner. And I thought Djokovic played a great tournament, and he played exceptionally well in portions of this 3-set loss to Jannik Sinner. I think if Novak Djokovic plays like he did against Jannik Sinner, he's going to beat 98% of players in the top 100. So it makes sense that when Djokovic can still make it deep into Grand Slam tournaments, which he has done this year, semis Australia, semis Roland Garros, he should just continue and keep going. But I think there's something going on with Djokovic regarding Sinner, and I've had this gut feeling now for a long time. And I do believe that Sinner might be one of the reasons why Djokovic is not going to play that much longer. And I'm not sure if you heard the post-match press conference in which Djokovic stated that he's not sure whether he will return to Roland Garros. So while I strongly believe that Djokovic is beating everyone at a Grand Slam tournament except Alcaraz and Sinner, I've had doubts that he has the capabilities at his age and some of the changes in his game to beat Sinner and beat the new version of Alcaraz. And based on Novak Djokovic's statements after this match, I think that Novak himself has doubts that he can beat Sinner. And I think this is a frustrating thing for Novak because Novak doesn't play tennis to make it into a semifinal of a slam. Novak Djokovic plays tennis to lift the Grand Slam trophies. So it is quite possible that Djokovic has lost the belief that he can actually beat Sinner. And if we look at this match, Novak did have some chances, but overall, I never had the feeling that Novak can win this match. And as I discussed a couple of days ago, there are a lot of challenges that Novak is facing when he plays Sinner. So in that video that I'm referring to, I said that Novak Djokovic will have to play faster than he normally does. And he didn't do that in the first set, which he lost with one break. But very early in that second set, Novak Djokovic started blasting the ball. And I did say that I'm seeing a small decrease in power in the Djokovic ground strokes. But I also said that it's quite possible that Djokovic might start blasting against Sinner. So my statement is inaccurate. Novak Djokovic can still blast the ball. And he did blast the ball in that second set, which gave him more chances against Sinner. Because the problem is when Novak Djokovic plays his normal, very consistent ground stroke game, where he is capable of not missing anything, that's not enough against Sinner, because Sinner is going to make him run like crazy. And Novak Djokovic showed in the last two matches that he played that he might be one of the greatest athletes of all time in all sports. I'm not just talking about tennis. The way this guy was fighting and putting balls back in play at the age of 38 is incredible. So when Djokovic plays his normal game in a neutral position from the baseline, he's in a lot of trouble against Sinner. So he has to ramp up the speed on his ground strokes. But unfortunately, this is out of the comfort zone for Djokovic. He's highly capable of doing this, of course, but this is a riskier style that can produce some errors. Now, if you remember the Olympic final against Alcaraz, Djokovic didn't really ramp up the speed. And prior to the match, I thought that if this match got very tight, the consistency of Djokovic might draw some errors from Alcaraz, and this is exactly what happened. So while that game style of being ultra consistent and clutch in the most important points can work against the old Alcaraz, this hasn't worked against Sinner. Now, in some of my recent videos about Djokovic, I talked about the fact that Djokovic has been very clutch on his serve, finding really good serves when it matters the most in his own service games. 30 all, 40 all, break point down, game point up. And while Sinner's serve percentage was low, Sinner was very clutch on his serve. So when it comes to pressure points, this is where Sinner is the best player in the world by far based on stats. Now, despite Novak Djokovic serving quite well in this match, his serve is often in danger, especially when he misses a first serve here and there, because Jannik Sinner happens to be the best returner in the world based on shot quality. And some people have been asking me talk about the new Sinner return stance. Tennis.com wrote an article earlier this week discussing the different stance that Sinner has on his return of serve. It's very much a Nishikori style return stance. And 7 years ago when I first got on YouTube, I talked about these different return stance styles. And basically the advantage of having a stance like this, Andy Murray did something somewhat similar where he was sideways on the return in his stance. And what the difference is that when you're sideways like that, you're going to take a step into the split step, which makes the actual split step more automatic and possibly more dynamic as well. So this is for sure something that I encourage players to try out. I personally find that the timing is more tricky when you take a step towards the ball, especially when you're facing big servers, but some players find a lot of comfort in having a more automatic and dynamic split step. Now, when it comes to the final between Sinner and Alcaraz, I think the conditions are going to be an important factor to consider. I heard that it's supposed to rain on Sunday in Paris. So if they close the roof, advantage Sinner. If they play outside, advantage Alcaraz.